It's the city centre Newcastle wants and needs, according to the state government. The heavy rail corridor transformed, ripped up and replaced with open parkland and sensitive, sensible development.
Was there ever going to be no development? I don't think so.
It's the first time the government has put its vision for the city's renewal into pictures, showing several large developments along the waterfront and rail corridor. Newcastle MP Tim Crackenthorpe says it's a disgrace.
First, this government said there'd be no development on the rail line. Then they said there'd be some cafes. Now they're saying there are going to be some apartments.
The Planning Minister believes the concept will be a game changer not only for the city but for the government's chances on election day.
This is a watershed moment for Newcastle. Newcastle on the 28th of March has to say we want growth, we want redevelopment, we want rejuvenation.
Among the concept plans, a fresh produce market at Newcastle Station.
It's laughable. What a wicked waste of a wonderful resource.
While Civic Station has vanished altogether.
That connection between Civic and Honeysuckle, you can see from the drawings now how that's going to work for the city, how it'll make it a much better city in terms of the connections.
It's a strange move, according to the plan's critics, considering the Transport Minister only yesterday announced funding for safety upgrades. Lord Mayor Nuatali Nelm says despite repeated promises, council has again been brushed aside.
Some of the detail of these plans the state government is announcing could actually be helped by council being at the table.
The government says nothing has been set in stone and consultation will continue both with council and the community. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
Blood running down his leg, this body surfer got more than he bargained for when taking to the waves just after 6 last night. He was bitten on the ankle by what's thought to be a shark off Merriweather. He took to Instagram to show his battle scars, saying, "Got me, tagged by Bruce." Well, maybe his little brother. This morning, another sighting, a lifeguard spotting a 6-foot shark off Bar Beach. Warning signs were posted at Merriweather and Bar Beaches, which were closed due to rough surf conditions. Former lifeguard Warren Smith has spent almost 40 years of his life watching over Newcastle beaches. He says he's never seen a season like this one, with beaches closed 15 times in the last month alone, due to big seas and sightings of the creature of the deep.
I remember one stage there, we were out in the IRB and the Westpac's up above saying, "Don't let that thing go down, guys, you ought to believe what's underneath you." So we've had sharks around in major ways before. I don't think we've had a big one like this that's been around, or the consistent presence of a dominant shark in the area.
Council says lifeguards will continue to patrol the coastline on jet skis, keeping an eye out for any further shark activity. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
The message we want is for people to slow down, drive to the conditions and pay attention to their surroundings. If they do that, if they're careful on the roads, then we can turn this spike in road fatalities around.
Winning an A-League title with Newcastle is one of Matt Thompson's most cherished moments, but now there's a new challenge. He's about to give back to the local football scene, signing on as the Maitland Magpies star recruit.
What I've been through in the last 12, 15 years in football, and if I can spread that with all the players out here, then fantastic.
After a deal with an Asian club fell through just before Christmas, an audacious call from the Black and Whites lured the former Jet back to the Hunter region. The club's promotion to this season's NPL was the clincher.
When I heard that was the first time back in the top league in 12 years, it was exciting. It was like starting fresh again. So I'm looking forward to not only staying up but being competitive this year. And with any luck, we can definitely go close to winning it.
For coach Chris Turner, he knows just what a player of Thompson's ability can bring.
I think, whether you're a 5-year-old kid or you're one of the veterans of the first grade side, everyone's really excited, and they've just been happy to have him, and finally having him here tonight's been great.
Although focused on his new goal, the dynamic midfielder admits that watching the turmoil unfold at his former club hasn't been easy.
It's not nice. Obviously playing at the club for a while, I've always had a soft spot for the Jets and their fans. I use the word ugly because I really think it is. I think it could have been dealt a little bit better by the sounds of it.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
They'll just know how to work the waves a lot better, and the Bay Area boys are here, so we've got a good local representation as well as Redhead and that. So yeah, but it's going to be hard to beat North Narra.
I'm a team player, But any pressure, I come from pressure, so the pressure won't be a problem. But I'm a team player first.
They'll be seeing the best water skiers in Australia and New Zealand in those age groups. The guys will be jumping in excess of 50 to 60 metres.
Member for Swansea Gary Edwards came to the crossbench in less than ideal circumstances. An ICAC inquiry heard the then Liberal MP allegedly took money from property developer Jeff McCloy, but the Swansea Independent candidate has a word of warning.
People have to be very careful if they do sling mud, because there have been no findings whatsoever. And I repeat, ICAC is not a court, it's a commission of inquiry. They can't find you guilty of anything.
Flying solo will be a change of pace, so he turned to good mate and fellow Independent MP Greg Piper.
I met with Greg about a week and a half ago and sat down with him in his office, and yeah, Greg was great. He gave me some very good advice.
As a Liberal MP, he got several projects funded, among them dredging of Swansea Channel, but he believes sitting as an independent won't work against him.
I think I'd have much more of a chance as an independent sitting on the crossbenches than I would as a member of the opposition.
While it took him a few weeks to decide his next move, he says in the end, community support made his decision easy.
I've been asked by so many of our constituents to do it from one end of the electorate to the other, to run as an independent. They're happy with what we've done, so I'll run as an independent. And I guess I feel if I don't, I'm letting those people down again.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News. It seemed every man and his dog turned up for the Olive Tree Market's first day at its new home.
Everyone's been extremely positive and really happy with the move, and it actually has a really amazing atmosphere here, so yeah, we're excited.
Fears a lack of parking may have kept people away clearly didn't eventuate.
There's a Gibson Street car park which is just nearby, and it's $6 flat rate on market day. So people are actually, we used to have a lot of people getting booked at the junction, so I think having the parking station nearby is a positive thing.
Many punters giving the move the thumbs up.
Parking hasn't been an issue for us, and it's a lot bigger, more room to move.
Today there's a lot of music, there's a lot of, I see a few different food stalls here, which I always go for. But yeah, there is a different and a better vibe on this one for sure.
With 15 new stalls added and room for more, there was something for young and old. And stall owners were doing a roaring trade.
Oh, it's just been incredible. It's 11 o'clock and I'm almost completely sold out. The response has been overwhelming. It's just so fantastic to see all our loyal customers here and all the new customers who have come to have a look today.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
It's wonderful to see so many people out exercising, and there's lots of groups like this throughout Newcastle utilising our parks and open spaces, and council's trying to make sure we have, good public facilities so fitness groups can utilise our parks and open spaces.
It was a Hunter boat that punched above its weight recently in the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. Daredevil, skippered by Libby Ilseffer, finished 37th overall.
We pulled the campaign together in about 4 months, and we'd never sailed the boat before, and the crew was new as well.
But there's now a new challenge on the horizon. In July, she'll lead a 14-person crew in a 109-year-old race called the Transpac, while flying the flag for Australia.
It goes back a long way, and it's a very exciting race because it's actually mostly downhill, which means you fly spinnakers all the way. I've had a look at the entries yesterday, and we're the only Australian boat in it so far.
But just getting to the starting line will be an adventure in itself, sailing to Fiji, Hawaii, then on to the US before setting back off to the Hawaiian finishing point.
If we can get a placing in our division, that would be awesome.
Once complete, it's back home to prepare for yet another Sydney to Hobart, and she wouldn't have it any other way.
You only live once. I mean, I've had quite a few friends pass away in the last 5-6 years, and they would have loved opportunities like this, and they just never got to see it.
Michael Kane, NBN News. It was this last-second sting in the tail which topped off a week of Jets turmoil.
The boys are gutted, to be fair. They're putting a very solid shift.
The home side nearly got off to the perfect start through Edson Montano, but it was this sucker punch which put the Roar in front. Poor marking inside the 6-yard box proved costly. Mitch Cooper went close to levelling on either side of the break, the first saved by the legs of Michael Theo, the other by an outstretched hand. Ben Kennedy was doing the same type of job down the other end to deny the Roar their second, and again moments later from a long-range strike. But it was the introduction of a Jet substitute, which was soon to change the complexion of the match.
It wasn't easy, had to work for it, get it out, but went in, that's the most important thing. Got a bit lucky with the tackle that popped up and just volleyed it home.
But in the 3rd minute of injury time, disaster struck. The coach also bearing the brunt of Jets fans that are still hurting by the club's decision to sack 5 senior players.
There's a little bit of angst still surrounding the decisions, and I'm big enough to take that on board. There's a bar just around the corner, so I think a few of the boys had a few drinks there, and look, that's all part and parcel of football.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Relief for Renew Newcastle. The state government has contributed an extra $50,000 to help keep the non-profit company, which finds uses for vacant city buildings, afloat. And council's $30,000 commitment each year for 3 years is also going ahead.
Council is now supporting Renew Newcastle a lot more than they have in the past, which I think is really positive in terms of really getting on with our Hunter Street Revitalisation Master Plan.
Last November, Renew Newcastle only had enough funding to operate until April, putting the 60 projects it has on the go at risk.
Renew Newcastle has been the only single on-the-ground organisation making a real difference. And you can see the activity we have in the mall here today on Sunday. Before Renew Newcastle, it wouldn't have been like this.
Despite recent funding commitments, Renew Newcastle still needs $70,000 to keep supporting its projects in the CBD. The state hasn't ruled out contributing more funding in this year's budget. Crediting her government's light rail project, the minister says it's exciting to see strong demand for commercial space in the CBD instead of vacancy rates as high as 15% in 2009. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Finals day of the Team Challenge and the Bay Area Brawlers were the last side standing from the Hunter. In the dying stages of their semi-final, junior competitor Max McGaw needed a solid score to send the Brawlers to the decider. Despite the cheers, the boys from the Bay were eliminated. In the final, it was Central Coast outfit North Shelley up against reigning champs North Narrabeen. The Sydney siders raced to an early advantage thanks to Matt Hardy. Having finished third at the World Surfing Games in Peru late last year, Shane Holmes did his best to bridge the gap, but it was this mistake by North Narrabeen's Rob Hazelwood that opened the door. 9-time Surfest Indigenous Classic winner Russell Maloney needed a 3.7 or better on the final wave to clinch the title. He got North Shelley home by just 2 points.
This is how close these Singleton homes are to the rail line. And noise complaints have been coming in since the start of the mining boom. But this work could be the solution. The ARTC is building a 284-metre long wall.
The Hunter Valley coal industry has invested $1 million in a trial rail noise abatement program. The aim of the program is to look at ways to address noise concerns.
This simulation shows what the wall will look like once it's complete in about 5 weeks. Made out of Hebel brick, it's designed to obstruct the direct line of sound and hopefully reduce noise by 6 decibels.
A 2 decibel reduction is noticeable, and 6 decibel is quite obvious reduction in noise, so yes, it is significant.
Singleton Council hopes it'll provide a more livable environment and promote coexistence with the mining sector.
We need the coal industry, we need production, we need employment and money.
The trial will finish in August. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
They were once the heart of a community, but almost 160 clubs in New South Wales have closed in the past 10 years. Bowling clubs make up a third of those, including several in the Hunter. The Burwood Colliery Bowling Club is now in voluntary administration, but those behind the venue are hinging their hopes on locals rolling up.
Hopefully that's what we're looking at trading out of administration and paying our bills and keeping the club here for the community.
2 fundraisers have been organised, a family fun day on March 1 and a 10-band concert on March 8, both in the spectacular outdoor area overlooking Dudley Beach.
We'll have a look at the view. I don't think it's possible to get any better for bowling club, weddings, functions. The view just says it all.
Despite the location, the club's $300,000 in debt, the new secretary-manager is hoping to reinvent its image, but knows it must first get back in the black.
Just some community support. Everyone turn up on the day, on the days, the 1st and the 8th, have some fun, and some donations wouldn't go astray either.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
A fitting way to usher in a new era. The state's water minister hit town today to announce a $14 million plan to extend an existing pipeline from Glenbourne Dam to Scone onto Murrurundi.
Largely all the funding's coming from Restart New South Wales. These are similar to emergency type arrangements. This is at no cost to the local community in effect. So it's a great outcome for Murrurundi in particular.
This time last year, there was a perfect example of just how dire things can get. A blue-green algae outbreak locally meant water had to be trucked in from Scone and bottled water used for drinking.
We've also got variations in rainfall, so a lack of water, plus the heat creates algae problems in low water levels. We can say goodbye to all of that once this pipeline is built.
Council expects the 40-kilometre pipeline to benefit 2,500 people while encouraging more to move to the area.
Importantly, with a piece of infrastructure like this, it encourages growth. When we've got absolute security in our water up and running, then that's only going to attract more and more people.
The pipeline is likely to follow the New England Highway and is expected to be complete by 2020. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
We're hoping that the whole community will get on board and buy a lantern and achieve what really we're trying to achieve, and that's to raise funds to buy a new bus for the seafarers.
Seafarers are often referred to as the least, the last, the lost and the lonely, and that's because we kind of don't see them.
This is, or was, the culprit. The large male funnel web, now a specimen at the Calvary Mater Hospital's toxicology unit. It bit Newcastle man Josh Reynolds on his neck, a particularly dangerous location.
This is the severest I've seen, and I think what made it severe was despite him having antivenom within an hour of him being bitten, he still had, he was still in intensive care for 2 or 3 days.
The young father was putting on a shirt, unaware the spider was inside. He's now recovering at home. Clinical toxicologist Jeff Isbister says it took 4 vials of anti-venom to save his life.
This gentleman came in after being bitten. He was really sick as soon as he arrived. He was having difficulty breathing.
The funnel web spider is the most toxic spider in the world, so the venom is very strong.
February marks the beginning of funnel web breeding season when they tend to wander at night.
We've had a bit of rain, it's quite humid, it's perfect for funnel webs, and the males in particular are out looking for girls. It's usually during the day when that sun comes up, they want to hide away in anything they can find and they'll jump into a shoe, a pile of washing.
Wildlife experts are urging caution, with paramedics responding to 10 bites this year, 3 of them severe.
If you're bitten by any big black spider that you think's a funnel web, you should immediately put on a pressure bandage and have that immobilised.
And call an ambulance. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Less than 2 weeks after Nathan Tinkler and Phil Stubbins tried to remove 5 senior members of the squad, including Q Yelins, Joel Griffiths and David Carney, the sight of them at training has become commonplace. For the players who remain on active duty, the entire situation is having an impact.
There's still some wounds there, but I think it's time. Time will heal those wounds, and you live day in, day out with these guys, and it hurts a little bit. So,
despite the disappointment of Friday's loss to Brisbane, the players took some positives out of their performance.
The more we got into the game, everyone got a lot more comfortable and understanding their roles and responsibilities in that formation and the way we're looking to move forward, I guess, and that's just going to keep coming with more practice and more game time.
Another plus for Kantarovski was the effort of stand-in skipper Taylor Regan.
Very good communicator, tried to push forward from the back and lead by example, and hopefully does it again this week.
This week, the challenge switches to a resurgent Western Sydney. The Wanderers' win has moved them to within 1 point of the Jets with 2 games in hand. Kantarovski says the rest of the season is all about playing for pride and rewarding Newcastle's loyal fans.
This is the first one. I told Wayne I probably should have been picked a while ago, but begs to differ. They were out there to win the game, and we will be too. So I dare say there'll be some heavy contact out there.
Chad Reed avoided some early carnage in his heat, but didn't get through unscathed. Without an automatic qualification spot, Reed was forced to go through the semis. Sitting in second, the former world champion had an accidental run-in with his own teammate. The Australian went on to take the win, while Josh Grant was forced into the last chance qualifier. Sitting in sixth early in the final, Reed was soon involved in more drama. Reed moved to fourth, and that's where he stayed for 20 laps, moving to seventh overall in the series. To golf, and Aaron Townsend finished as the best of the Hunter contingent in the Victorian Open. Townsend was among the front-runners following an impressive second round 64, but a 74 on day 3 left him out of contention. Toronto's Callan O'Reilly finished one shot further back, tied for 18th. Jamie Hook was 4 under for the tournament, while Kurt Barnes, Nathan Green and Lee McKechnie missed the cut.
There was an option to bail out, so I thought, well, I'm not really interested in shark bait for today.
My storage was full, so I was deleting a bunch of videos off of it and just caught it at the last minute.
Connectivity. It's a word often used by supporters of the rail line's truncation.
This is about the connectivity of our city to the harbour front.
To improve accessibility in the inner city, to open up the city to the harbour front.
What we propose to do is to ensure that Berlin Wall comes down.
While pedestrian crossings have been built, new government plans reveal 2 large buildings on the rail corridor to the east of Newcastle Station and a third block on the harbour side, which appears to be 6 storeys high.
So many of the stories we've heard previously are about connectivity. Let's connect the harbour to the city. Sadly, there is a pattern that's developed of misleading information and broken promises. What is being proposed now represents a wall.
The amount of piecemeal planning and the amount of secrecy about what's happening over time has been distressing.
This came 4 months ago.
Construction of any sort along the heavy rail corridor just won't happen. There isn't a feasibility study in existence to support the claim that any sort of commercial or residential development could take place.
Andrew Fletcher says he meant there wouldn't be any high-rises. He supports the new plans, which also feature open space and better north-south road and pedestrian links.
Was there ever going to be no development? I don't think so.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's a plan that would see cruise ships sail straight up to Newcastle CBD, and with them the 20,000 passengers who already visit the city annually.
The fact that we've got renewal in Newcastle well underway and it's really starting to advance fairly quickly, here we can add to that. It won't happen overnight, but we need to start that planning now.
If you think you've heard the idea before, you have. More than a decade ago, cruise ships docked at Throsby Basin. But today, such a move presents new challenges. Liners are generally larger and the port busier. The Institute says it's acknowledged both factors in its submission to the state government.
But we're saying, let's have a look at it, let's investigate and let's make sure we can try and solve it. In Miami, they have solved it, a narrower cut, and they get 4 million passengers per year through their cruise terminal.
The state's planning minister says she looks forward to reviewing the plans, but that it's vitally important the community has the opportunity to discuss any ideas for the future of Newcastle. The Lord Mayor says the city needs a permanent terminal.
It must be done with evidence, and the evidence around marine-based navigation and the trend for larger ships.
At this stage, there's no estimate of the cost of the project. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
Newcastle Aboriginal community don't receive any royalties from these mining companies, so we never want to halt
Obviously a significant event for the Land Council in our community, so yeah, overwhelming.
I know I can connect to a different demographic, a keen interest for the future of Wallsend as well.
It's hard to imagine this used to be a football field.
35 years ago, sweaty fellas were running around out here playing rugby union.
Now these wetlands at Shortland are part of an internationally listed conservation site, but just over the back fence it's a different story. Hunter Wetlands Centre CEO Stuart Blanche says weeds from the Astra Street dump are becoming a nuisance.
Our staff and our volunteers get very frustrated when we do a lot of good work to keep weeds off our property and then weeds are coming across from the council land.
The tip was closed in 1995. Since then, concerns have been raised about potential soil contamination. Stuart Blanche believes rather than letting the site lie dormant, it should be rehabilitated.
It should not just be left with a big fence around it, full of weeds, breeding up foxes and rabbits, and council saying it's too toxic, we don't know what to do about it.
And he's keen to get everyone on side.
What we're trying to do is say let's have a partnership between council, community groups and the New South Wales Government to restore the site.
As well as maybe righting some environmental wrongs of the past, it's also hoped the site will become a real tourism asset.
And I think in the future I can see more wetlands, more rainforest there, maybe the largest patch of rainforest within a couple of 100 kilometres of Newcastle.
Newcastle Council says it's happy to discuss any proposals regarding the site. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
Preparing for a Mid-North Coast test, Newcastle will play a game of two halves, the first against the Port Macquarie Sharks, the second against the Wauchope Blues, and they'll have to do the job without three big names.
Obviously, the more games you play, the higher risk of injury, so, we think we can get them fit enough here. I think with Kurt and probably James Mack and Aku, that's going to be the case for those three.
Cade Snowden and Joey Leilua will play in the side, also missing all-star representatives.
The Knights head to Wauchope this weekend with a mostly second-tier squad, but Rick Stone believes it's the perfect opportunity for others to stake their claim.
No, I think there's a few spots up for grabs for sure. We've got probably a bench and maybe a couple of back row and front row positions there. The form in the next couple of weeks will have a massive part to play in selection in round one.
All eyes will be on a flying winger who impressed many in New Zealand.
I'm sure the fans up at Wauchope will enjoy seeing Jake Mamo if he gets in the clear because he can sure get along and score some tries.
And with one more year left on his contract, he's a person Stone is keen to keep at the club.
He's the excitement machine, Jake, and he's one player obviously we want to keep at the place, and he's off contract this year. He'll probably attract a bit of interest, but we're keen to map out a bit of a pathway to show some there's long-term future for Jake here.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
With the Jets involved in battles on and off the pitch, Fort Scratchley provided a fitting venue for today's announcement. Sydney-based work gear supplier Gottstock will sponsor the club for its final 4 home games, starting with a clash with Western Sydney. The stats don't flatter either side. Newcastle has lost its last 2 matches at Hunter Stadium and hasn't scored a first-half goal in 7 games. The Wanderers haven't won an away clash since last April, and this season have scored with just 8% of their shots. With so many players coming off contract, the Jets say there's still plenty to play for.
Restoring pride is one thing, but while ever it's mathematically, a chance, we'll keep fighting for a finals berth. That's what the fans want. That's what, us boys want.
Taylor Regan was acting skipper against Brisbane, but could end up simply concentrating on defence this weekend.
I'm under the understanding that it was just for that game. I think somebody else will have it this Saturday. I'm not sure. We haven't spoken about that, but Yeah, of course it was excellent to lead out your home team.
Not that he didn't enjoy wearing the armband.
The fact I had it there just meant that I could argue with the ref a little bit more, which always helps in a player like myself.
Just under a fortnight ago, the summer deluge had Hunter winemakers nervous.
Mate, this is a really tricky place to grow grapes when the weather turns sour.
5 days of rain played havoc with the harvest, but what a difference a week has made. Fine conditions and perfect temperatures have turned the situation around. Rod Kemp from Lake Follies Estate produces Chardonnays and Cabernets on his Pecolban property, and the reds are looking particularly promising.
It takes a little bit longer to ripen, and I reckon, probably over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, if touch wood, if the weather holds, we're looking really good.
Fellow winemaker David Hook's crop also came through unscathed, and he has cause for double celebration. The Hunter Valley Wine Association recently succeeded in having Belford recognised as a trademark grape growing area.
It's one of the oldest grape growing areas in the Hunter, and it's very significant that we maintain that name. It means that grapes grown in Belford can be identified as obviously grapes from Belford, and that makes it a unique product.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
23 hectares of bushland residents fear will be lost forever, and this is what they're worried will be built there, a 104-lot residential subdivision nestled between Anna Bay and Fisherman's Bay. It's a development that's had a long and contentious history. Tomorrow, the $5 million project will face possibly its final hurdle when it's put to the Joint Regional Planning Panel, but opponents say they need more time.
The environment is a major issue, as well as drainage and infrastructure, so we don't feel they've been addressed correctly.
I just don't believe we need it in our backyard. There's enough development around here that hasn't been done properly, so we don't need any more.
There needs to be transparency so the community can have certainty and some kind of comfort in decisions that are being made.
Urban Growth, formerly known as Landcom, is behind the proposal. Residents say the state-owned developer couldn't have chosen a more inappropriate site.
On Saturday, just in the tree behind us, I had a koala there. So the koalas are known to use this area, and even in Appendix 8 of the Plan of Management, the trees on this site are listed as important to the koalas.
Urban Growth New South Wales declined to comment on camera, but in a statement says it has consulted extensively with the community and that it is confident the development addresses all aspects required under the relevant legislation, including issues relating to koala habitat. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
So basically everything needed for a JSF is going to have to come through either this facility or us providing support over on the base to make sure that the JSF can be supported for the next maybe 4 or 5 decades.
The Wonnarua people feel helpless.
Yeah, I tell you what, it breaks my heart to see it happen, but what can I do about it?
Grinding grooves made in rock by their ancestors at Glencore's Bulga mine at Broke could soon be gone forever.
Now that we've seen the site, we want to try and claim the site and keep it for future reference for people and school children to come and look at to see what the ancestor Aboriginals used to do. But the mine wishes to cover it over with overburden.
Glencore understands their disappointment, but says the decision was the outcome of a 3-year program of consultation with registered Aboriginal parties, and that has the Taggart family seeing red.
For our own people to sign off for it, any Aboriginal people, I cannot stand it.
There's people that are saying that they've come from this area and where they haven't. The Taggets, this is why, as we were called, it was the Taggart stomping ground, all through here. You know, been taken through the bush with Dad, Fardy, in the mountains. You know, it's ours. It's our land, our culture, our history. Okay. And there's our history going to be covered up.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Young children have a habit of running in between parked cars, and we want to get the message out there that school zones are speed limited for a reason, and that is because young children frequent the area during those school zone periods.
Flowers, chocolates and gifts, the things we typically associate with February 14.
The advertising and the marketing that's behind Valentine's Day is targeted towards romantic relationships, and what we feel is people could invest in their broader relationships and spend quality time with those around them.
Interrelated says strong relationships should be nurtured regularly, not just on one day of the year, whether that be with family, friends or work colleagues.
Often they're not perfect, and in many cases they can be improved. So we've got a campaign together around Relationships Day, which is encouraging people to consider more than just their romantic relationships.
And for some, Valentine's Day isn't a happy occasion. Aaron Simpson from the organisation's Hunter branch says that's another reason why we should spend more time with other people in our lives.
Those that don't have a significant other or a partner could find it very difficult on Valentine's Day. The idea of having a rich variety of relationships and people in your lives could help support you through those times.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
They've taken some big steps, but there are remaining liabilities. There's some operational, structural things that need to happen. We are still on a deadline, and we think it's important that the pressure stays on to get these things put in place quickly. Not necessarily, but it's a matter of days.
The Indigenous Classic is the traditional opening to Surfest in more ways than one. In light of recent shark sightings, jet skis and helicopter patrols became a feature of today's proceedings at Merewether. A flock of birds in a feeding frenzy inside the competition area only added to the atmosphere. Unfazed, reigning junior champion Joe Wallace from Cronulla dominated his heat. He backed that up by winning his second round outing in the men's division. Victoria's Indigenous champion Geordie Campbell proved he's in the mix, winning both of his heats to guarantee a spot in the quarters. But everyone is keeping an eye on 9-time winner Russell Maloney. There was a taste of sibling rivalry in round 2 as he took on his brother Matt. The defending champion showed no mercy, staying on track for title number 10.
The BMW Golf Cup International is a series of tournaments that attracts more than 100,000 amateurs across the globe. And for this 34-year-old weekend warrior, getting the chance to wear the green and gold in the World Final is a dream come true.
Unexpected. I never ever thought at my age or any age that would represent Australia at anything.
Mark qualified for next month's tournament at Sydney's New South Wales Golf Club after winning the national event in a close one.
I started quite slowly, and from there the second 9 got a lot better, and putt started to drop, and yeah, things went a lot better.
He's already doing his homework on the course layout for what will be the biggest 3 days of his golfing life.
I've had a little bit of a look online, and yeah, going to try and get down there in the next couple of weeks.
South Africa is the 2-time defending champion, and in a bid to wrestle the title away from the Proteas, Mark's cramming in as much golf as he can.
I've been putting in a lot more than probably my normal golf. Was very social and go out and enjoy myself of a Saturday or through the week when I had time off, but the wife has gave me permission to go and practice pretty much as I want at the moment.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
I'm probably going to get more excitement out of today than the kids, to tell you the truth. Like always, when I was a child, I looked up and wanted to be one of those people, and I'm lucky to be enough, and hopefully we can inspire these kids to follow their dreams.